Many people are familiar with the Coldcard, the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market. But did you know it can also double as a password generator and manager? Yes, indeed, CoinKite are at it again with another fantastic advanced feature. And today we're going to take a look at how to do exactly that, generating and managing your passwords via your Coldcard. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
Shout out to sponsors of the show, HodlHodl.com. If you're buying Bitcoin and you've got some priorities in mind, like peer-to-peer trading, instant self-custody, and no KYC, then HodlHodl is the place to be. You can sign up with only an email address. Once you get there, scroll down, choose a currency, a payment method, and an amount, and you're off to the races and viewing offers immediately. They also have a lending platform in which nothing is ever rehypothecated. Check them out today. You can sign up with the link down below. When you do stack some non-KYC sats, of course, you're going to want to secure it with the best hardware on the market, and CoinKite has all of the best stuff. The Coldcard Mark IV is my go-to hardware of choice. I've also got all of their other stuff, the tap signer, the sats card, the block clock, open dimes, and coming very soon, I've reserved my Coldcard Q1. It looks amazing. If you'd like to do the same or grab anything else I just mentioned, head over to coinkite.com and use code BTC Sessions for 5% off at checkout. Now, of course, you want to back up your Bitcoin wallets in a very secure medium, and Seedor is the best and most robust steel backup solution on the market. It's got a disc and capsule design, and it is very beautiful, very high-end, shall we say, and everything in the starter pack will get you going with 2 full seed phrases and tamper-resistant stickers. All of it's there, the mallet, the whole shebang. Check them out today, Seedor.io. There's a link down below that will also get you 5% off. Now, if you're looking to dive into multisig, namely assisted multisig, I highly recommend you check out Nunchuk.io and their assisted multisig program called Honey Badger. It's really easy to set up on your mobile device with things like the tap signer, the Coldcard, and a ton of other hardware options. It has baked-in inheritance planning so that your sats get to your next of kin should anything happen to you, and the entire thing is KYC free. You don't need to provide personal information in order to set it up and have it work for you. So check them out. I have a full tutorial on my YouTube. And finally, shout out to Start9, your sovereign computing solution. These amazing plug and play devices allow you to run your entire Bitcoin stack, Bitcoin Core, Lightning, Mempool.space, Join Market. You can also host your own data, files, passwords, photos, and plenty of other things. They have everything from entry-level devices all the way to what I'm running, the Start9 Server Pure, which is an absolute beast. I highly recommend you check them out. These guys are awesome. Head over to start9.com. And with that, let's dive into the tutorial. So as I said in the introduction, the Coldcard device can be used not only to manage your Bitcoin wallets and your Bitcoin keys, but also can be used as a password manager. And so the way that it does this is through a specification known as BIP85. I've covered this in previous videos, but the long and the short of it is you can have a single backup seed phrase for your Coldcard, and then from that you can actually derive up to 10,000 sub accounts that look and act as regular Bitcoin wallets. So this means that I could say, okay, account number 1 is this, and it will generate a whole other seed phrase for me, 12 or 24 words, whatever I prefer. And I can then use that, for another purpose, a hot wallet, whatever it may be. If I ever were to delete that wallet or lose it, I can go back to my Coldcard and say, hey, what was account number 1? And retain that information. Well, the same specification has a dual purpose. You can also use it for password generation that can be used for anything, any online service, any piece of software, any device that you might have, a computer, something like that. And so with the same thing, you can generate up to 10,000 unique passphrases that can be used wherever you see fit. And should you ever forget the password, should you ever need to go and reference it again, you can go back to the Coldcard and say, hey, what was password number 1? This device will also, if you plug it into the computer and use it as your password manager, it actually is able to type on the computer for you and generate the password and fill a field, a text field in any website or on any piece of software that you may have. So in terms of prerequisites, what are you going to need in order to do this? Number 1, of course, you're going to need your Coldcard. And number 2, you should already be set up with it and familiar with it just in general, navigation wise. You're going to already need to have a seed phrase, a backup set up with this. And if you have not done that, of course, check in the show notes because I will be including my Coldcard tutorial, which includes the entire full initial setup and everything. As long as you go through the setup and you've generated a seed phrase with this, you can then just use it as a password manager. And you don't even have to deal with the Bitcoin stuff if you don't want to. Other than that, it's helpful to, it's going to be needed to turn on a couple of different settings in here to make sure that the USB drive or the USB port is functioning and that you allow it to generate passwords. And we're going to go through that whole setup. So really, the long and the short of it is have a Coldcard and have it initialized. And then you should be all right. So with that, let's get started. We're going to jump in as if we've already got our Coldcard set up from the get-go, and now we just want to use this particular feature. Okay, so here I am with a Coldcard Mark IV. I've previously used this one in tutorials, and it's already set up. It already has a seed phrase. It was a 24-word seed phrase, just for reference. I apologize for the flickering. That is not actually present on the Coldcard. It has to do with the frame rate of the recording, so just be aware it's not a glitchy screen, but nonetheless we can get through everything here that we need to do in order to get our password manager sorted. So the first thing we're going to do, now this cord that I'm connected with is currently plugged into my computer. However, previously in other videos that I've done, and during initial setup, you have the option to turn off the USB port for data. And what that means is it would only be receiving power. It wouldn't be able to communicate with the computer at all, which means it wouldn't be able to actually fill passwords. And so what we're going to do here is we're actually going to turn on the USB port. Again, assuming that you want to use the Coldcard as a password manager and actually fill passwords. If you don't, you can export them via SD card, so you can not do this step if you so choose. Nonetheless, okay, we're going to scroll down and we're going all the way down to settings. Once we select settings, we're going to go down to hardware on and off, which is the second option here. And then the top option is USB port. We're going to click into that one and we're going to change it to default on. We'll give a check mark and there we go. So our USB port is now functioning. I just saw a little light flash as well. So I can now X out of this. We'll go back to the main screen so we can kind of recenter ourselves. Now up next, in order to enable the ability to deal with passwords, we need to go change another setting. So we're going to go all the way down. We're going to go to settings and then we're going to scroll all the way down and we're going to go to keyboard EMU or emulator. We're going to check on that. It says this mode adds a top level menu item for typing deterministically generated passwords, BIP85, directly into an attached USB computer as an emulated keyboard. So I'm going to check that. And then it gives me the option, do you want it off or do I want to enable it? I'm going to enable it and hit the check mark. Okay, great. So all of the settings that we need are now set up so that 1, data can travel through the cord to the computer, and 2, so that this device can emulate a keyboard and basically type for me on the computer. All right, let's go back to the main screen now. And what you'll notice is after that last setting, you now have a new thing in your menu, and you may totally miss it, but it is right there. It says type passwords. So now that we're all set up, we are able to actually create and type passwords that are all derived from the seed phrase on this device. And so that is now option number 4, which has popped up in your main screen now. It wasn't there before. You scroll down and you go to type passwords, and we're going to hit the check mark. So it says switching, and now it's working from the keyboard emulator and the password generator. It says password index. Basically, every Coldcard you will have 10,000 sub accounts to choose from if you're using BIP85, or in this case, if you're using it for password generation. And the way those are numbered is it starts at 0 and works its way all the way up to 9999. All right, so there are 10,000 options. It's just 0 is the first option. And so if we want the password for account 0, I just type 0, and then I'm going to hit the check mark. It works. It generates the password in question. And then it says, because I am plugged into the computer currently, it says place your mouse at the required prompt or required password prompt, then press OK to send the keystrokes. And then here it's going to show me what the password is. I can see, and it's, they're very clearly randomly generated, a lot of upper and lower case. It's kind of all over. And then also there's a little bit of additional information. It lets you know the derivation path through which this password was generated. So anyways, I don't necessarily need to know that, but I can see the password here. And then it says that I can do this on my computer and actually send the keystrokes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show my screen and how it reacts when I hit the check mark from this screen on the Coldcard. And all you need to do, this is just a text editor, but basically anywhere you want the password to go, you just click in a text field. So this could be, say, a website, and I just move my cursor and I make it so that I get the blinking cursor where I want the password to go. Okay, and at this point on the Coldcard, I'm just going to hit the check mark in the bottom right, typing sent. And we can now see that I have my password set here, now ready to go. And if this was a password field, it would just fill it, and then I would click login, and I'm good to go. Now, back on the Coldcard, I can see I'm back on password index, and I can do the same thing. I can type in account number 1 or account number 5555. It doesn't really matter. What we want to do is just fill whatever password we want. And then as soon as we're done, we can hit X to cancel, and that will back us right back out to our main screen. Another X takes us back up to our top. Now, of course, if you're going to be using the Coldcard for a lot of different passwords for various services, then you're going to want to have a simple way of indexing them and knowing which password goes to what. And so that can really simply be done with something like a spreadsheet that you just store wherever. And you can just have the indexes listed 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just whatever the login information that you require is there. Of course, don't save your passwords here because that undoes the security of having them on your Coldcard, but you could have, the index in a column, the website in question in a column, and maybe you could have a third one that is the login credential, like what email address that you're using alongside the password. And if anybody happens to get this, then they really don't have anything. They know that you use certain services, but they do not have your passwords. They would need your Coldcard for that. Now, if you're looking to export a particular password in another way into perhaps a text file onto your SD card, you can also do so through your Coldcard. So the way that you're going to do that is all the settings would be as they were before, but you're going to scroll down this time to Advanced/Tools. And then you're going to scroll down until you see derive seed B85 or BIP85. Okay, so it says, hey, this is going to create entropy to derive various types of data, wallets, passwords, whatever. Okay, we're going to check mark through that. And then it gives us some options. So this is where you would perhaps create another seed or you know, a 24, 12 word, 18 word seed, a private key, in various formats. But then down at the very bottom, the last option is passwords. So when I click that, it asks for my password index. We're going to do the same thing. Just as an example, we're going to hit 0 and I'll check mark it. It says working. And here we can see the same password that we saw before. So it pops up on the screen. It says, here's your path used, all of the derivation info. It gives a little bit more info. It shows all of the raw entropy that was used to create said passphrase. But then now at the bottom, we have a few extra options. It says, press 1 to save to the micro SD card. 2 to type the password over USB, so the original one that we did. Or 3 to view as a QR code, which is scannable and will transmit the data that way. So let's try the micro SD card, and then we'll plunk the SD card into our computer to see what it looks like. So I'm going to press 1. It's saved. It says, hey, the file name is as following, DRV PW for password, and then IDX0, which is referring to the account number that we chose to pick, which was 0. So we can see that's now going to be there, and we'll just hit the check mark, and we're back out to our main screen. So we're now going to take this SD card out, plunk it into the computer, and see what that file looks like. All right, so back on the computer, I've now plugged in my SD card. I'm going to open it up, and I can see 2 files here. This is just a signature proving that it was signed by my actual Coldcard and my master key. But the next one next to it is the text file that we're looking for. So I click it, open it up, and hey, here's all of the information that it had. Not just the password, which is right here, and we can cross-reference that from the one that came out above here. So that's all good. And then it also gives the path used and the raw entropy, all of the stuff that we saw before. So feasibly, you could export your passwords air-gapped and sign in that way. So if it's for an account that's super secure and you really don't want to even plug in a device and you just want to send it over, then sure, you can do it this way. Just be aware that these files, they are plain text. And so if anybody gets a hold of this file, then just realize that they won't know necessarily what it's for, but your password for that particular account is visible in plain text format. And finally, I just wanted to show the other method of export, which is via QR code. So I navigated back to the screen that we were previously on. All the way down, I've already selected my account number of 0. And so I'm going to press 3 to view it as a QR code. So it pops up here. It has the password beside it. Now I found that using the regular camera to scan the QR code tries to push specific apps on you to open it with, whereas if you just get a QR scanner app specifically, then it will allow you to copy the text for pasting. So if I open this QR scanner, then it gets the QR code and it fills everything and says, hey, here's your code. You can copy that and then you can paste it into whatever app you need to log into. I think that the QR option is also very useful for those that would like to still air gap their Coldcard and still utilize the password function in that way. So if that's up your alley, as I said at the beginning of the video, don't turn on your USB cable, just leave that be. In fact, you don't even need to do the typing mechanism. You can just go directly to that BIP85 derivation that we went to. Instead, you can just go to advanced/tools and then go all the way to derive seed BIP85, everything that we did in this step, and then bypass all these words and just go down to passwords. So you can still access that without changing those settings we did before, because you don't necessarily need it to type on the computer for you if you're just going to be scanning QR codes or exporting it via SD card, and that keeps it air gapped. So up to you how you use it, and whether it's a dedicated device or whether it's sharing purpose with your actual seed phrase for your Bitcoin. Now, I did want to touch on some best practices when it comes to using this feature with the Coldcard. Of course, the Coldcard itself, the device itself, is protected by a PIN. And so anybody trying to access it, they would, of course, if they didn't have the PIN, they would likely bump into the limit of tries and they would end up bricking the device, making it useless for them. However, of course, you've got your backup, right? You've got your 12 or 24 words from which you originally set up the device, and that is written down, and as you should have it somewhere safe and away from prying eyes. However, that is a single point of failure if you don't have a passphrase attached to your seed. And I've covered how to do this in my previous Coldcard video, so you can go back. But this is particularly of use when you're not just protecting the Coldcard and the funds secured with it in a single Bitcoin account, but when you've derived multiple accounts below it, or in this instance, where you've derived multiple passwords below it from a single seed. Because if somebody gets access to your 12 or 24 word seed phrase and they try and they say, hey, what's password number 1 or password number 2, they can generate all of those passwords. And if they know who you are, which if they got physical access to your device, they may, or to your seed, they may then start trying some of those passwords on some of the services that you use. Again, there's a lot of ifs and or buts here, but if you want that extra layer of security where even if somebody got your seed phrase, they wouldn't be able to generate anything, then you can go through and add a passphrase. The other thing I'll say here is some people prefer to utilize their Coldcard fully air-gapped, meaning they don't want to plug it into anything internet connected. In this case, to use the autofill feature in a expedient manner, of course, you would be plugging it into a computer as we did here. Of course, I think it's probably a good idea if you're using it in this fashion to separate out your money management and your password management into two separate devices. So if you're a Coldcard fan and you want to use it for this feature, in my personal opinion, I would probably have a secondary device. One manages my Bitcoin, one manages my passwords, and then I use that whenever I need it. But that is just food for thought, and at the end of the day, it's all up to personal preference and your risk tolerance. So what did you think of Coldcard's password feature? Is this something you're going to use? Is this something you're excited about? Is this something that you may grab a second device for so that you can securely manage everything? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your experiences, thoughts, concerns, all of that. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please do like the video, give it a share, and number one, if you're not already, please do hit that subscribe button. The more subscribers here, the more things continue to grow, and the more we can get this in front of more eyeballs and get people here viewing the weekly free tutorials on the regular, and you can level yourself up. Of course, if you want to help with the show in another way, you can hit up the sponsors I mentioned down below. Those were HodlHodl, Seedor, Nunchuk, Start9, and of course the topic of today, CoinKite. There's a link to them down below, and you can grab anything you need, including another Coldcard if you happen to need one. And then finally, if you really liked what you saw, head over to my website, btcsessions.ca, and you can do a couple different things here. If you need some extra hand holding on anything Bitcoin related, you can book me for one-on-one sessions. comments there. Or if you just really liked what you saw and you want to leave me a Bitcoin tip, right at the top there, you can click on the tips tab and it will take you over to my own personal BTC Pay server where you can send tips via Lightning Network or on-chain. You can do things like grab me a coffee or help me run my node infrastructure or help me with hardware like what we worked on today so that I have a steady supply of new tutorials to make for you. Anyways, with that, I am out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening wherever you may be. See you guys next time for your daily session.
HodlHodl the Bitcoin.